Oh, I just love to rock and roll. And hi out there, this is Wolfman. Ain't gonna give you nothing heavy to deal with, Jack.
From the busy streets of Brooklyn in the 30s and 40s, Robert Weston Smith, aka Wolfman Jack, would go on to turn his childhood love of radio into a career that affected millions. Wolfman Jack developed a radio personality so vibrant and singular that it attracted millions to tune in all across North America. And with his iconic, gravelly, raspy voice, he was an outlier and a trailblazer, howling at the moon whenever he damn well pleased. Wolfman Jack was edgy, oftentimes sexually suggestive, but he had something special. And with all we know about this legendary radio personality, surely there's some that we don't. Why did the Wolfman have to leave America to reach more Americans? And just how did Wolfman Jack create his on-air personality? Who did he base it off of? And was there a pre-Wolfman character? I'm Nostalgic Nick with Do You Remember? And today we're tuning in one more time to the best secret kept, the best DJ in the biz, Wolfman Jack. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a beat.
Well, let me hear a little howl, a little Wolfman.
The early years. Wolfman Jack was born in Brooklyn, New York on January 21st, 1938. He was the youngest of two children, and his father was an Episcopal Sunday school teacher and executive vice president of the magazine Financial World. His parents got divorced when he was a child, so his dad, in an effort to keep Robert out of trouble, bought the future Wolfman a large transoceanic radio, and the boy would escape his coming-of-age troubles by slipping away to the family's basement and falling deep in love with R&B music and the DJs who hosted. His biggest influences were DJs like New York's Dr. Jive, Tommy Small, Sugar Daddy, and Jocko Henderson of Philadelphia. It was these voices that took him away from his troubles, and the young boy first began pretending to be a real-life disc jockey. As his interest in the medium grew and grew, he began obsessing over the work of New York mainstay DJ Alan Freed. So the teenage Smith began hounding the entry doors of the Paramount Theater, hoping to meet Freed, and this led to a big Wolfman break when he became a gopher at Paramount. Wolfman had dropped out of high school, gotten a taste of behind-the-scenes work at Paramount, and now was beginning to learn the business of radio when he began taking classes at the National Academy of Broadcasting in Washington, D.C. He was moonlighting his education by selling encyclopedias and fuller brushes door to door. And the road to radio stardom took some time, but despite not finishing high school, he graduated at the head of his class in 1960. Tuning in. His first job in radio was at WYOU in Newport News, Virginia. It was here that he developed his first persona called Daddy Jules, a tribute to the DJs of his formative years. And from the get-go, his unique energy began to attract listeners. And it was here that he met his wife, Lucy Lou Lamb, and the two were married in 1961. The couple quickly had two kids, both of whom followed Dad's footsteps. His daughter, Joy Renee Smith, was a singer-songwriter and radio DJ, using the name Joy Jack on radio. Sadly, she was killed in a car crash on June 23, 1998 at just 37 years old. Wolfman's son, Todd Weston Smith, is the president of Wolfman Jack Entertainment LLC, which specializes in talent consulting, live music production, and tour sponsorship. He cites his legend of a father as a primary influence, and the business opened in 1986. So why did Smith leave the first area he was gaining popularity in? Well, after he opened a dance club, the Ku Klux Klan decided to burn a cross on his lawn. So they decided to move to Shreveport, Louisiana in 1962. He was now working at a country music station, KCIJ. His show was called Big Smith with the Records. And again, he found success as the station manager and morning DJ. But Smith now had the records, but he didn't have the national reach, something he so badly sought. But Robert Smith was about to change a lot. Countries and personas to be exact, as a move south of the border was set to unleash the Wolfman. Viva la radio.
And the people gazed with awe And one was heard to say, "Where's the men's room around here?"
The Wolfman Jack character had begun forming in his mind before he made the move. His idol, Freed, had originally used the name Moondog, and he even used a recorded howl to give his early broadcasts a unique feel. Smith's tribute to Freed, the Moondog, was to call himself Wolfman Jack, and of course add his own unique sound effects.
But underneath all this roughness can be found some good times, baby!
Wolfman Jack.
The character was partly based on the style of blues singer and guitarist Howlin' Wolf, and Smith was also attracted to the spooky toned personality because he loved horror films. So now he had his voice, but he still needed that reach. His plan was specific and ingenious. He simply wanted to be heard by as many ears as possible. So he targeted XERF in Mexico. This station housed a high-powered border blaster signal that reached across much of the US. In an interview with travel author Tom Miller, Smith described the reach, saying, quote, "We had the most powerful signal in North America. Birds dropped dead when they flew too close to the tower. A car driving from New York to LA would never lose the station." Wolfman Jack's program was even broadcast to Canada, and he played whatever music he liked, regardless of the performer's ethnicity, which at that time was a bold, true move. On any night, a listener might hear a mix of blues, rockabilly, jazz, and rock and roll. In 1965, the Wolfman transferred to another Mexico-based station, XERB, and his wild on-air persona mixed with some righteous rock music, he began to quickly gain a huge following. Part of his allure was his celebrity secrecy. Listeners from coast to coast had no clue who the Wolfman really was. They only knew that the Wolfman plays the best records in the business, and then he eats them, of course. By 1966, Smith was recording his shows back in the US in LA, shipping them to Mexico where they would be beamed across the US. It was during this time he met Don Kelly, who became his personal manager for more than 20 years, and who saw even greater potential for Wolfman Jack. It was time to transform Smith from a shadowed cult figure to a mainstream entertainer in other media. But in 1970, the Mexican government took control of both Mexican stations that Wolfman called home, and Wolfman Jack needed a new job fast. He recently bought an office building where he built a new studio in LA, and in desperation took a job at KDAY in LA for just a fraction of his previous earnings. However, in 1972, with lofty work from his manager and years of building a cult audience, Wolfman Jack was hired to be the announcer, interviewer, and co-host of NBC's influential late-night music series, The Midnight Special. And he was just getting started showing the world his gruff and friendly face. Larger than radio. Then Wolfman Jack added authenticity to an already true 1973 classic, George Lucas's first directed film, American Graffiti, a truly wonderfully scripted film.
There's a great, big, beautiful world out there. And here I sit, sucking on popsicles.
And in gratitude for his performance, George Lucas gave Wolfman Jack a fraction of the net profits, which ended up being enough to provide a comfortable income for the rest of his life. Wolfman began appearing in cameos in 1971, and American Graffiti was just his second. He continued to use his voice to land side gigs, like on the cartoon spin-off The Fonz and the Happy Days Gang, and he also appeared in commercials for Clearasil skincare and acne medication, as well as releasing his single, I Ain't Never Seen a White Man, in 1972, which got up to number 106 on the Billboard singles chart.
I ain't never met a man as pure as the driven snow.
Smith's final TV appearance was in 1995 on Married with Children. That very year, the Wolfman sadly passed away at the age of 57 from a heart attack. He passed very suddenly after returning home from a promotional tour for his autobiography, Have Mercy. Reportedly, he walked into his house, hugged his wife, and said, quote, "Oh, it is so good to be home," and then passed away in his wife's arms. In regards to his iconic and distinct voice, the Wolfman said, "It's kept meat and potatoes on the table for years for Wolfman and the Wolfwoman. A couple shots of whiskey helps it. I've got that nice, raspy sound." It's certainly a voice we'll always remember. Wolfman Jack was posthumously inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame in 1996, and rightfully so, too. I mean, the man is referred to in songs by the Grateful Dead, in Ramble on Rose, and in the Guess Who's Clap for the Wolfman. About 5 years after his passing, Wolfman Jack Licensing was formed, which began to digitize the influential DJ's tapes. WJ Licensing has produced digital Wolfman Jack shows that are currently being distributed to radio stations all over the world. The Wolfman Jack radio show is still on the air every night somewhere in the world, which is a very comforting thought to a world devoid of the Wolfman. So let's toast to the one, the only, Wolfman Jack, Robert Weston Smith. What are your memories of listening to Wolfman Jack? What drew you to his broadcasts? Was it his charm and humor, or his varied choice of awesome music? Get in the comments and let us know. After all, he would want to hear all the voices affected by his gravelly howl of a voice. As always, don't forget to give our broadcast a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a memory. From all of us here at Do You Remember, thank you very much for watching.
I remember